Today I'll be exploring the ballad Death and the Lady, which tells of a meeting and conversation between Death and a wealthy lady. I'll look at its background and printing history. I'll sing some examples of tunes associated with the ballad and end on a complete performance. As I walked out one day, I met an aged man by the way. His head was bald, his beard was grey, his clothing made of the cold earth and clay. His clothing made of the cold earth and clay. I said, old man, what man are you? What country do you belong unto? My name is Death, hath heard of me. All kings and princes bow down unto me, and you, fair maid, must come along with me. I'll give you gold, I'll give you pearl, I'll give you costly rich robes to wear, if you will spare me a little while, and give me time my life to amend, and give me time my life to amend. That tune and words were collected by Cecil Sharp in 1907 from Mrs. R. Sage of Chewstoke in Somerset. The ballad tells of a meeting between a wealthy lady and a stranger who introduces himself as Death. He tells her that she must prepare herself to leave her earthly life. The lady offers gold and jewels, and even her daughter, if Death will spare her. Death cannot be bought. The lady suggests that Death should take someone more needy, such as the poor or prisoners in jail. Death has come for her. He points out that she did not have any charity for the poor and the suffering when she thought that she had many years left to live. The song dates back to the late Middle Ages, when thoughts of mortality became a popular theme for painters, poets and playwrights. In the first quarter of the 1300s, the Italian poet Dante Alighieri wrote an epic poem known as the Divine Comedy. It tells of a journey between the different levels of the afterlife, hell, purgatory and heaven, and along the way they meet a variety of people who tell their story. It gives a view of the Christian world as seen by Dante and the then current discussions about mortality and redemption after death. The spread of various epidemics such as the bubonic plague, also known as the Black Death, throughout Europe and Britain during the late Middle Ages added to the feel of mortality. Danse Macabre, the Dance of Death, was an allegorical painting that came out in Germany in the early 1400s. It depicted dancers from all walks of life being led by death. The painting included speeches given by each character, giving a reason why they should be spared or given more time, but death ignores their plea. They are caught in the dance of death. The concept of the dance of death became popular in England after the artist John Lydgate saw a depiction of the French version of Danse Macabre in St. Innocent's Cloister in Paris in 1426. He produced a painting on the walls of the cloister in St. Paul's Cathedral in London. He translated the text into English and added 5 new dancers. Sadly, the painting no longer exists. Other versions of the image were reproduced in a number of churches around England and Europe. The images of the Dance of Death and the conversations about mortality appear in a number of poems, paintings, music and plays, and continues to be used in modern times. Fair lady, lay those costly robes aside, no longer may you glory in your pride. Take leave of all your carnal vain delight. I come to summon you away this night. What bold attempt is this? Pray let me know from whence you come and whither I must go. Shall I, a high-born lady, stoop or bow to such a pale-faced visage? Who art thou? Do you not know me? I will tell thee then. I am he who conquers all the sons of men. No rank or beauty from my dart is free. My name is Death. Have you not heard of me? That tune and words were collected in 1892 from Mary Ulton of Antrim in Ireland. Street ballads, known as broadsides, were being printed from the mid-1500s when cheap paper production and movable typesetting made it more viable for local printers to set up business. It was sold at fairs and in streets. Sometimes a seller sang the song to entice the customers to buy. The street ballads sometimes reproduced current popular songs and ballads, but often had newly composed ballads on a wide variety of subjects. Early ballads that formed the pathway to the ballad Death and the Lady can be traced back to the 1500s and includes a dialogue with Death and a young man. The text is apparently similar to the dialogue used for a depiction of Danse Macabre in the Hungerford Chapel in Salisbury Cathedral from around 1460. Later dialogues included the Dead Man's Song, the Dance of Song and Death from 1568, and a dialogue between an exciseman and Death printed in 1659. The earliest recorded printing of Death and the Lady was in 1736 in a chapbook titled A Guide to Heaven. This version of the ballad was reprinted in Popular Music of the Olden Times, edited by William Chappell in 1856, and it sounds like this. Do you not know me? Well, I'll tell you then. 'Tis I who conquer all the sons of men. No pitch of honour from my dart is free. My name is Death. Have you not heard of me? Yes, I have heard of thee time after time, but being in the glory of my prime, I did not think you would have called me so soon. Why must my sun go down before it's noon? Talk not of noon, you may as well be mute. There is no more time for you to dispute. Though thy vain heart to riches was inclined, yet thou must die and leave them all behind. The early broadside printings are entitled The Great Messenger of Mortality, or a dialogue between Death and the Lady. Some versions had a dialogue between Death and a rich man. The conversation follows similar patterns in that the wealthy persons felt that they were immune to death because they had power and position. Death was indifferent to their earthly form, and everyone dies in the end. The early versions of the ballad often had over 20 verses, but the tunes were not noted or printed. The ballad was rewritten in the early 1800s, the number of verses reduced, and the associated tunes became more melodic. Collection of Death and the Lady from the country singers began in the late 1800s. A version was collected in Devon and printed in 1891 in Songs of the West, edited by Sabine Baring-Gould. Lucy Broadwood collected a version from the Sussex singer Henry Burstow in 1893, and it was published in the English Traditional Songs and Carols in 1908. Talk not of noon, you may as well be mute. There is no time at all for vain dispute. Your riches, gold and garments, jewels bright, your house and land must on new owners light. My heart is cold, it trembles at such news. His bags of gold, if you will me excuse, and seize on those unfinished thou the strife, who wretched are and weary of their life. Are there not many bound in prison strong, in bitter grief and souls that languish long, who could but find the grave a place of rest from all their grief by which they are oppressed? Mr. Burstow's version had 23 verses and follows the earlier broadside text, the great messenger of mortality. The text and tune are variations of that printed by William Chappell, and it's likely that having learnt a tune for the song, he used a broadside printing to help him remember the words. The version I sang earlier, from Mrs. Oulton of Ireland, also follows the earlier text and tune. The collectors from the Folk Song Society quickly followed with versions from the south of England. A total of 7 variations with tunes were collected from traditional singers. Most conform to the later, shorter printed version of the ballad. I will end this podcast with a version of Death and the Lady collected in 1946 by Francis Collinson from Mr. Baker of Maidstone in Kent. As I walked out one morn in May, the birds did sing and the lambs did play. The birds did sing and the lambs did play. I met an old man, I met an old man, I met an old man by the way. His head was bald, his beard was grey, his coat was of a myrtle shade. I asked him what strange country man, or what strange place, or what strange place, or what strange place he did belong. My name is Death, can you not see? Lords, dukes, and ladies bow down to me, and you are one of those branches 3. And you fair maid, and you fair maid, and you fair maid must come with me. I'll give you gold and jewels rare, I'll give you costly robes to wear, I'll give you all my wealth in store, if you'll let me live, if you'll let me live, if you let me live a few years more. Fair lady, lay your robes aside, no longer glory in your pride. And now, sweet maid, make no delay, your time is come, your time is come, your time is come, and you must away. And not long after this fair maid died, right on my tomb the lady cried, here lies a poor distressed maid, whom death now lately, whom death now lately, whom death now lately hath betrayed.